Hey, I'm Johnny Trombucas, and this is the entrance to our house. As you can see, it's a little tight, so I want to free up some space and open it up a little bit. But there are a couple things that I need to work around. On the other side of this wall, there's stairs, but most of this wall doesn't need to be here. There are a couple things that I haven't figured out yet, like with the stairs being open, there is a potential of someone slipping and falling off of the stairs, and there's a light switch here that needs to be relocated. But I'll figure those out along the way, so let's get started.
I know I'll need to use some drywall later on in this project, so I wanted to be careful removing it and try to keep it in large sections. I used a magnet to find all the screws, then I removed them and used a drywall jab saw to cut out the drywall. I'm only removing what I absolutely know needs to go on this side, and I can be much more accurate when I remove the other side of this wall. Once I remove the drywall from the stair side, I can mark where I need to cut the remaining drywall. I put the saw on the inside corners of the steps and poke the saw through the drywall. Then I can go on the other side and connect those dots, remove the screws, and I took this off as one piece. And already this really opened up the space and allowed so much more light to hit those stairs. The studs are pretty quick to remove with a sledgehammer, but I did need to open up the door so that I have enough room to actually take them down. I took out the first 3 like this, and the rest of them need to be cut at an angle to match the stairs. To make that a little easier to mark, I put a 2x4 on the steps and used a square on top of the 2x4 to mark both sides of the stud and connected those lines on the front. Marking it this way means the wall will be a little bit taller than the steps, and that's exactly what I want. This is the last stud, and I had to open up the door to have enough room to remove it, just like all the other ones. Though this was actually the most difficult one to remove. Next I can remove the top plate, and don't worry, I turned off the power to those cables. That's that light switch that I mentioned earlier. I cut an angle on one end of a 2x4, and I'm just using one of the studs that I removed from the wall. I'm using this to cap the diagonal wall, and I found it easier to attach this first and then cut it to length and support that end. Once I finished that, the house decided to eat the wires, which is pretty handy because next up is moving the light switch. Now I'm upstairs and you can see the handrail for the stairs in the background. There's a tight attic space behind this wall, and I was able to add a junction box behind that so that I can extend the cables through these studs and down the wall. Downstairs there was a phone jack in this spot, which we're not using, and I'm not sure anyone still uses those. I took out the box that was there just to make it easier to run the cables through, and I put in a new box, wired the switch, and quickly turned on the breaker just to make sure everything was correct. I want to give a big shout out to my buddy Patrick Reynolds, which over a phone call he helped me figure out the wiring for this 3-way switch. You should check him out on Instagram. He's a really good guy. And don't worry, I'll fix up around this light switch, but for now, let's move on.
So these stairs are painted white, and this wall is going to change a little bit, but it's going to stay white. And with this being the first thing you see when you enter the house, I want to add some warm colors to it. So I started sanding the paint on the treads, and it is taking a very long time. The paint on there is super thick and there's a lot of dents and cracks that are trapping paint in. So to speed up the process, I'm actually going to remove the treads and flip them upside down. I still need to sand that to make it nice and smooth, but it's going to be much quicker than removing all of this paint.
The stairs are nailed on, so they were a little difficult to remove, but this was the simplest way that I figured out to do it. I first hit the steps up and then back down. This usually lifted the nails enough to get a pry bar underneath them, and I used the handle of a mallet to get a little bit more height to make it easier to remove. And I'm purposely using a dead blow mallet here rather than a hammer with a metal head. This gives a lighter sound when hitting the metal pry bar, which makes it a lot easier on your ears. Once everything was removed, I sanded all the treads and added a clear coat to protect them. This duct was just blowing air underneath the stairs. Luckily, it was long enough that I can cut a hole through the first riser and add a vent. Now I can put in the rest of the treads and risers, and I'm just using a framing nailer to make it a little bit quicker. With the stairs back in, I can tackle the drywall, and I thought to use the original piece that was here since it was already cut out for the stairs, but it wasn't cut very accurately and there was a huge gap along the bottom. Which is fine because this was pretty simple to figure out and cut with the drywall saw. I don't have a ton of experience with drywall, so this wasn't perfect, but it's definitely better than what was there before. Right now, the bottom corners of the drywall are unsupported, and this can accidentally get kicked and easily be broken. So I'm screwing on these blocks to help support those corners. Now I can add the rest of the sheetrock and start mudding and taping. And this is definitely not my favorite part and something I'm not very good with. I give a lot of respect to people that do this every day. If you have any tips on how to get a smooth transition, leave them down in the comments so we can all learn together, and I'll keep them in mind next time I do a project like this. Back in the shop, I'm cutting this board to make a wide C channel, and this is going to fit over the diagonal wall and act as a trim piece. I'm specifically using this piece of maple because there's a lot of small cracks in it that don't make it ideal for a lot of other types of projects. Those are pretty easy to fill since this is going to get painted over anyways, it won't be seen. Also, I've had this board for about 2 years and I just want to get rid of it. While the paint is drying, I can move on to the shiplap, and rather than using actual shiplap boards, I'm ripping down 1/8 inch sheets of MDF. This turned out to be significantly cheaper and wasn't even that much more work. I cut these strips to match the height of the risers and treads when I add a 1/4 inch spacer. Doing it this way means I don't have to notch any of the pieces around the stairs. I thought about using an adhesive for these panels, but a brad nailer turned out to be more than strong enough to hold everything securely to the wall. Next up was paint, and I'm using a brush first to get all the gaps and the sides of the panels, and then I can roll on the rest. MDF soaks up a lot, and it helps to add a primer first. I did 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of white paint. There's one more thing I wanted to add to these steps, and Chasing Paper was kind enough to provide wallpaper for the stair risers. This is peel and stick wallpaper, which is so easy to apply. I peeled the backing and lined it up against the wall, stuck it to the riser, and cut off the excess. This roll isn't quite wide enough to reach the entire width of the stairs, so I cut a smaller section to finish up the pattern. I added a 2x4 to the floor and behind this stud so that I can attach this 1/4 inch plywood. I cut this off camera to match the exact shape of the stairs, and I'm just attaching it with brad nails. Then I screwed on this vertical trim piece from the inside, and this is from that same maple board that I was cutting earlier. Now I can attach the top piece, and this is getting screwed in through the face through counterboard holes. That way the screw head can sit below the surface. These screws will be covered with dowels, and I was thinking of a few different ways to attach them. I ended up drilling a hole into the ceiling, through the drywall, and into the wood that's behind it. I added glue to both ends of the dowel and made sure that it sat plumb and sat centered over the bottom piece, and I just tacked it in with a brad nailer. I was very surprised with how solid these turned out. The last couple things to do in this area are to add the handrail and the trim. This is the same handrail that was here before, just painted black, and this is the same trim that was here before but painted white. The main goal of this project was to add more space in our entryway and to make it feel more open and bring it up to date. And I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. If you're new to my channel, I usually build smaller furniture pieces, and home renovation isn't my normal content, but there's a lot more to come. I hope you found this video educational or at least entertaining. If you did so, hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching.